My name is Sandra Fernandez. I'm 24 years old, and for most of my life, I believed in a simple rule. If I stayed steady, stayed useful, stayed good, my family would eventually meet me halfway. That rule was a lie. This all happened about a year ago, but the truth is, it started long before that. It started the day my dad died. I was 16 when we lost him. One phone call, one hollow rush to the hospital, and then that moment where your world doesn't explode so much as go silent. Like the sound gets turned off and you're left watching everyone's mouth move, trying to understand how life can keep going when something so central has just stopped. After the funeral, there were just 3 of us left. My mom, Denise, and my little sister Amber, and me. We stayed in our family home in suburban Cleveland, the same house where Dad taught me how to ride a bike, where he used to make pancakes on Saturday mornings, where the hallway still had pencil marks from when Mom measured our heights on the doorframe. It should have felt like safety. Instead, it became a stage. And I didn't realize until much later that I was cast as the supporting character in my own life. Amber was the golden child from day one. Mom never said it in those words, of course. She didn't need to. It was in everything. In the way her voice softened when Amber entered a room, in the way rules bent around her like warm wax, in the way consequences simply didn't stick. If Amber cried, it was an emergency. If I cried, it was being dramatic. Mom always had an explanation ready, polished like a coin she'd been rubbing for years. She's younger. She's more sensitive. She needs more support. And I was expected to be grateful for the privilege of not needing anything. When Amber wanted to quit her part-time job at the local coffee shop because her manager was mean, Mom supported her decision immediately. She didn't ask about rent, about savings, about responsibility. She just nodded, pulled her into a hug, and increased her allowance like the problem had been solved. When I asked if I could use part of my college fund to study abroad junior year, just one semester, Mom looked at me like I'd asked her to set the house on fire. "Money doesn't grow on trees, Sandra," she said. "Be practical." Amber got a brand new Honda Civic for her 18th birthday. I got a used bike for mine, and a lecture about being thankful I had transportation at all. Even our friends weren't treated the same. Amber's friends were always welcome. They could stay over, order pizza, leave cups everywhere, talk loudly until 2 a.m. like the house belonged to them. Mom would laugh, call them sweet girls, and tell Amber how lucky she was to have such fun friends. But when my college friends visited, Mom complained about the disruption. She'd hover in doorways, sighing loudly, and ask them to leave by 10, as if I was running some kind of illegal operation. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was older, I was stronger, I was capable. That was Mom's favorite word for me, capable. It wasn't a compliment. It was permission to neglect me. After Dad died, the house became the center of everything. And here's the detail that matters, the one that makes the rest of this story less like family drama and more like a trap. Dad didn't leave the house to Mom alone. He left it to all 3 of us. Mom had the larger share as his spouse, but Amber and I each inherited portions too. Our names were on the deed. We owned it together. Mom managed all the finances, all the adult decisions. She always promised the same thing, over and over, like a lullaby she expected me to fall asleep to. "When I'm gone, you and Amber will inherit equally. It's only fair," she'd say. "This house belongs to all of us." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that paper meant something. I graduated college with a marketing degree and landed a job as a marketing assistant at a mid-size firm downtown. I made $45,000 a year. Not amazing, but stable. Enough to contribute to household expenses and start building savings. I offered to pay rent multiple times. Mom always refused. "This is your home, honey," she'd say, touching my arm like she was being generous. "Family doesn't pay rent." But Amber didn't pay rent either. Amber didn't pay anything. She dropped out of community college after 1 semester, claiming it wasn't for her. She went through 8 jobs in 2 years, usually quitting within a month or two because of some dramatic fallout with coworkers, a rude customer, a boss who didn't respect her energy. Mom never pressured her, never asked her to contribute, never even hinted that adulthood might require effort. She's figuring herself out, Mom would say. The problem was, Amber had been figuring herself out for years, and somehow the conclusion always landed on the same answer. Someone else would take care of it. I didn't know how dangerous that mindset was until the spring she got engaged. Amber had been dating a guy named Chase for about 6 months. He was fine, not cruel, not charming, not particularly memorable. He seemed like the kind of person who could be shaped by whoever loved him hardest. Amber loved him like obsession. She posted about him daily. She talked about him constantly. She made their relationship her entire personality, as if without it, she might evaporate. One evening in early March, she burst into the living room where Mom and I were watching TV. She looked like she'd been plugged into electricity, eyes wide, cheeks flushed, vibrating with excitement. "Chase proposed," she squealed, waving a small diamond ring around like a trophy. "We're engaged." Mom shrieked and grabbed her in a hug. Happy tears, immediate wedding talk, dress ideas, venue fantasies. My first thought was that they were too young and hadn't been together long enough to even know what their arguments sounded like. But I swallowed it. I congratulated her. I asked the polite questions. "What are you thinking? Something small? Local?" Amber's smile sharpened, like she'd been waiting for this part. "We want a destination wedding," she announced. "Somewhere tropical and beautiful. Chase has been looking at resorts in the Bahamas." Mom's face lit up like Amber had just offered her a second chance at youth. "Oh my God," Mom breathed. "That sounds like a dream." I felt something cold slide into my stomach. I asked the only question that seemed real. "How are you planning to pay for that?" Amber's expression flickered, just for a second. Then she looked at Mom with those puppy dog eyes she'd perfected as a child, the kind that made Mom melt every time, the kind that made me feel like a villain for even speaking. "Well," Amber said softly, "Dad always said he wanted to walk me down the aisle someday." The room went quiet. Not because of grief, because of leverage. Mom's mouth softened. Her eyes got shiny, and I watched the decision happen behind her face before anyone said anything out loud. "Of course, sweetheart," Mom whispered. "We'll figure something out. This is your special day." That was the moment something in me tightened, because I heard what she was really saying. Not, "We will figure something out." I will figure something out. And Sandra will go along with it, because she always does. Amber spent the next few weeks researching venues obsessively. She settled on a resort in Nassau that cost $15,000 just for the wedding package, before flights, accommodations, or any extras. And Amber loved extras. She started talking about first-class seats, ocean view suites, spa days, private dinners, excursions. The kind of wedding that looked like a celebrity vacation disguised as a ceremony. I tried to stay supportive. I really did. I tried to smile through the numbers, to keep my voice calm, to be the reasonable one without sounding like the enemy. "Amber, maybe we should look at some more budget-friendly options," I suggested one night. "There are beautiful places that don't cost quite so much." Amber stared at me like I'd suggested getting married behind a gas station. "This is my dream wedding," she snapped. "I've been planning this my whole life." "You've been engaged for 3 weeks," I said before I could stop myself. Her eyes narrowed. "You're just jealous," she said coldly, "because no one wants to marry you." The words hit me like a slap. Not because I believed them, but because I realized she meant them. Amber didn't just expect the world to cater to her. She expected me to hurt quietly so she could feel bigger. Mom didn't correct her, didn't even flinch. She just sighed and said, "Amber's stressed, Sandra. Don't take it personally." That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and listened to the house settle around me. The creaks, the distant hum of the fridge, the familiar sounds that used to mean comfort. And I thought, for the first time, not like a daughter, but like a co-owner. Because if Mom was willing to gamble our home for Amber's fantasy, then the house wasn't a home anymore. It was collateral. And I had a horrible feeling that very soon, I was going to be asked to sign something that would change everything. The first time my mom mentioned the house, she did it casually, too casually. It was late March, a Sunday evening, the kind where the day feels unfinished but the week is already looming. Amber was upstairs on FaceTime with Chase, giggling loudly, while Mom and I sat at the kitchen table with mugs of tea that had already gone cold. "I've been running some numbers," Mom said, stirring hers even though the tea bag was long gone. "Just thinking ahead." That was my first warning sign. Whenever Mom said she'd been thinking ahead, it usually meant she'd already made a decision and was preparing me to accept it. "You know how much property values have gone up around here," she continued. "We're sitting on a lot of equity." I didn't say anything. I felt something tighten behind my ribs. "If we took out a home equity loan," she said carefully, watching my face, "we could cover most of Amber's wedding costs without stressing anyone out." I stared at her. "You want to mortgage the house," I said slowly, "for a wedding." Mom frowned like I'd misunderstood something obvious. "It's not just any wedding, Sandra. It's Amber's wedding. And it's not like we'd be throwing the money away. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event." "So is losing your home," I said. She waved her hand dismissively. "You're catastrophizing." I tried to keep my voice steady. "Mom, what if something happens to your income? What if you can't make the payments? What if the house needs major repairs? We could lose everything." She leaned back in her chair, crossed her arms, and gave me a look I knew too well, the one that said, "You're being difficult." "My job is stable," she said, "and you're contributing now too. Between the two of us, we can manage the monthly payments." There it was, the assumption. The quiet expectation that my income was part of the plan, whether I agreed or not. "And Amber?" I asked. "What's she contributing?" Mom's mouth tightened. "She's starting a new chapter. She doesn't need this kind of pressure right now." I wanted to scream. Instead, I swallowed it and said, "I need time to think about this." Mom sighed dramatically. "Of course, but we don't have much time. The venues are booking fast." Over the next few weeks, the pressure never stopped. It just changed shape. Amber would casually mention how excited she was about the wedding, then drop little comments like, "I just hope nothing gets in the way," while glancing at me. Mom would bring up the loan again, always framing it as temporary, manageable, reasonable. "You'll understand when you're older," she said one night, smiling like she was being kind. "Right now you're too focused on money. Family is what really matters." That sentence followed me everywhere, to work, to bed, into my dreams. I was 24 years old, college educated, employed, paying bills, contributing to a household I didn't control. But apparently, I was too young to understand what debt did to a future. In early April, Mom called a family meeting. Amber sat at the table, scrolling through her phone, barely pretending to listen. Mom laid out printed documents like she was presenting a business proposal. She'd been to the bank. She'd been pre-approved. $35,000 in a home equity loan. Monthly payments, about $400. "We can handle that," Mom said confidently. "Between my salary and Sandra's contributions, it won't even be tight." My heart dropped. "Wait," I said, "you already applied?" "Well, yes," she said. "I needed to know what our options were." "There's just one small thing," she added lightly. "Since you and Amber are both on the deed as co-owners, the bank needs all three of us to sign." The room went very still. Amber finally looked up from her phone. "So you'll sign, right?" she said, like she was asking me to pass the salt. I felt sick. "Mom," I said quietly, "I told you I wasn't comfortable with this." She reached across the table and took my hand. Her voice softened. "Sandra, please. This is for your sister's happiness. Don't you want Amber to have the wedding she's always dreamed of?" Amber leaned forward, eyes shining. "I just want one perfect day. One perfect day, at the cost of years." I asked for more time. They didn't give it to me. Every day there were reminders of what I was holding up. Amber would sigh loudly about how stressed she was. Mom would mention how disappointed Amber was that things weren't moving forward. "If you don't sign," Amber said once, not even looking at me, I guess I'll always know who ruined my wedding. By early May, I was exhausted, worn down, cornered. I signed the papers. The second the ink dried, the spending exploded. Money started disappearing from the account like it had never existed. Venue deposits, flights, upgrades, excursions, a rehearsal dinner at the resort's most expensive restaurant. Amber decided she needed a whole new wardrobe for the aesthetic. When I asked how much we'd spent so far, Mom told me not to worry. "This is Amber's time," she said. "You're making it about money again." 2 weeks before the wedding, Amber announced she'd invited 6 additional friends. "The more the merrier," she said cheerfully. I did the math. With the extra guests, upgraded accommodations, and constant add-ons, we were $15,000 over budget. "How are we paying for this?" I asked Mom, my voice shaking. She hesitated. "I was thinking I could take some cash advances on my credit cards. Maybe $8,000 or so." I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. "Mom, that's insane," I said. "The interest rates—" "Sometimes you take risks for the people you love," she snapped. "Amber deserves this." That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to the house breathe around me. I thought about my dad, how careful he'd been, how seriously he took responsibility. He never would have done this. He never would have told me I was too young to understand. And for the first time, I stopped asking myself how to make them happy and started asking how to save myself, because the house wasn't just collateral anymore. It was a countdown. And I had a feeling that if I didn't act soon, there would be nothing left to save. The final straw didn't come in a dramatic argument. It came in the form of shopping bags. I got home from work one evening about a week before the wedding, my shoulders aching from a long day, my mind already bracing for whatever new expense had been added to the list. The house was unusually loud, music blasting, laughter echoing off the walls. When I stepped into the living room, Mom and Amber were surrounded by glossy paper bags, tissue paper spilling onto the carpet like confetti after a parade. Amber spun toward me, eyes bright. "Look," she said, holding up a dress. "I bought this for the rehearsal dinner." It was sleek, elegant, obviously expensive. "It was $800, she added quickly, then laughed. "But it's Valentino. I'll probably never own anything this nice again." Something in me snapped. "Are you serious?" I said, my voice rising despite myself. "Amber, we're already $15,000 over budget. Why are you still spending money we don't have?" She rolled her eyes. "God, Sandra, you're so obsessed with money." "It's not just money," I said. "It's debt. It's credit cards. It's our house." Her smile vanished. "This is my wedding," she said coldly. "If you don't want to be supportive, maybe you shouldn't come." I looked at Mom, waiting, hoping for her to say something, anything. She sighed. "Sandra, I know you're stressed, but can't you just be happy for your sister? This is the most important day of her life." That was it. Not our future. Not our home. One day. I went to my room and shut the door, my hands shaking. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the wall, replaying Mom's words over and over. "You'll understand when you're older." The condescension, the dismissal, the certainty that my concerns didn't count. I thought about my dad, about how he'd always listened when I spoke, even when I was a teenager, about how he'd treated me like my thoughts mattered. He would never have risked our home for a party. And that's when something shifted. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I spent the entire day researching property law, something I'd never thought I'd need to understand. What I found made my heart pound, because the house wasn't just Mom's. It was mine. And Amber's. As co-owners, any one of us had the right to petition the court for a partition sale, a forced sale of the property if the owners couldn't agree on how to manage it. It was extreme. It was irreversible. It would probably destroy my relationship with my family, but it would also end the debt spiral I'd never agreed to. I spent the weekend meeting with lawyers. One of them laid out the numbers plainly. The house was worth around $320,000. There was $18,000 left on the original mortgage and $35,000 on the home equity loan. After paying off the loans and legal fees, we'd split what remained 3 ways. My share wouldn't be life-changing, but it would be freedom. Still, I wasn't ready to go nuclear. On Monday night, I asked Mom to sit down with me privately. I laid everything out, my fear, my resentment, the years of being expected to sacrifice quietly. We're mortgaging our future for one day, I said. What happens if you lose your job? What happens if the house needs repairs? We'll have no equity left and years of debt. Mom listened, but I could see it in her eyes. She'd already chosen. Sometimes you have to take leaps of faith for the people you love, she said. Amber needs this. What about me? I asked softly. You're smart, she replied. You'll figure it out. That was the moment I understood. I wasn't part of the plan. I was part of the funding. What if I wanted to sell the house? I asked quietly. Mom's face went white. You can't be serious. What if I don't want to be part of this anymore? This is your family home, she said sharply. Your father wanted us together. He wanted us safe, I said, not bankrupt. We argued for over an hour. Nothing changed. That night, I called the lawyer back and told him to file the paperwork. On August 5th, 6 weeks before the wedding, I officially filed for a partition sale. I didn't tell Mom or Amber right away. Instead, I packed 2 suitcases. I found a short-term apartment across town. I took a week of vacation from work. On the morning Mom and Amber left for the airport, Amber barely looked at me. She was too busy talking about how perfect everything was going to be. After their Uber pulled away, I walked through the house one last time. The kitchen, the hallway, my old bedroom. Memories pressed in on me. Dad teaching me to ride a bike in the driveway, helping me with homework at the kitchen table. I left a sealed envelope on the kitchen table. Inside, the legal papers, a note, and my house key. Then I walked out. And for the first time in my life, I chose myself. They came back from the wedding on a Monday night. I didn't see them, but I felt it anyway, like a shift in the air, like something heavy had finally landed. I was in my new apartment, sitting on the edge of a borrowed couch, half watching Netflix, half staring at my phone like it might explode. At 8:47 p.m., Amber called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was pure hysteria. Sobbing, screaming, calling me jealous, vindictive, evil. She said I had ruined the happiest week of her life, that I'd embarrassed her in front of Chase's family, that I was dead to her. At 9:15, Mom called. Her voice was quieter. That somehow hurt more. I don't understand how you could be so cruel, Sandra, she said. Your father would be ashamed of you. Over the next 3 hours, my phone logged dozens of calls and messages. Anger, bargaining, guilt, threats, desperation. I didn't respond. What was left to say? The next morning, my lawyer called. Mom had left furious voicemails at his office, convinced I could just drop the lawsuit if I wanted to. He explained, again, that it didn't work that way. The process moved forward. Amber showed up at my office days later, crying in the lobby, begging me to stop. I walked her outside and explained everything one last time. The debt, the risk, the years of favoritism. She listened, then said the sentence that finally broke the spell. It's just money. We're family. That's when I realized we were never going to understand each other. To Amber, money appeared when she needed it. To me, money was safety, choice, survival. After that, the tactics changed. When guilt didn't work, they went public. Extended family called. Some scolded me for airing dirty laundry. Others surprised me with support. My uncle, my dad's brother, told me quietly that Dad had always worried Mom enabled Amber too much. He'd be proud of you for protecting yourself, he said. The house was appraised at $318,000. There was no stopping it. In November, Mom asked to meet me for coffee. She looked smaller, tired, older. The lawyer says we can't stop the sale, she said. We'll probably have to rent. I didn't think it would end like this. I felt guilt, but I didn't let it drown me. I tried to talk to you, I said, for months. She nodded slowly. I know. I wanted to give Amber the perfect wedding. I didn't think about the cost. For the first time, she admitted it. She'd favored Amber. Not out of malice, but fear. Fear that Amber wouldn't survive adulthood without constant cushioning. "I thought you'd always be okay," she said quietly. "I would have been," I replied, "but that doesn't mean I should have to sacrifice everything." The house sold in January. After all the loans and fees, I received $31,000. I used it as a down payment on a small condo closer to downtown. My own place, my own rules, my own future. Mom and Amber moved into a rental 30 minutes outside the city. Mom took a second job. Amber finally got serious about steady work. Her marriage, according to relatives, was strained under the weight of debt and resentment. I haven't spoken to Amber since. She blocked me everywhere. Mom and we're rebuilding. Slowly. Carefully. Without illusions. Sometimes I wonder if I could have handled things differently. If I could have saved the house and the family. But then I look around my condo. I think about the nights I can sleep without panic. About a life built on consent instead of obligation. The key I left on the table wasn't just a house key. It was the key to a role I refused to play anymore. The fixer, the fallback, the one who always paid the price so others wouldn't have to. I don't regret leaving it behind.